I was very nervous as my father drove us up the long and winding road. It had been almost 10 minutes since we passed the last house, and I was a little freaked out at how isolated we were. I considered asking him to turn around and head home, but knew he would be disappointed in me if I did. It had been his idea for me to offer to babysit his friend's daughter, and had made it clear no wasn't an option. We finally pulled up to a house which was situated on the edge of a cliff, and a shiver ran up my spine as the two bay windows looked like two eyes peering at me. My father drove off the second I hopped out, leaving me standing there staring at the house. I quickly shook myself and walked up to the floor. The parents ushered me in and told me they would be back at midnight and their daughter was already in bed. I didn't even get a chance to ask any questions as they ran out the door. I grabbed some snacks from the fridge and sat down with the intention of watching a few TV shows. I picked up a remote and a screen popped up showing a folder with my name on it. Curiosity got the better of it to discover my name alongside dozens of videos. I clicked on the first one and stared in wonder at myself sitting on the same couch. I was beyond confused as this was the first time I had ever been here. I let out a scream as a hooded figure crept up behind the version of me in the video and slit their throat. I jumped up and spun around as I was convinced there was someone there. It took me a few minutes to calm myself down as my heart was pounding in my chest. I clicked on the next video and watched in terror as I was crucified against a makeshift cross by a young girl. I began cycling through the other videos to see myself die in dozens of horrific ways. I was beheaded, eaten alive by a horde of rabid squirrels, had my intestines ripped out by a lawnmower, etc. I clicked on the last video and just stared at myself, standing there looking confused. I was about to turn it off when it dawned on me that I was watching a live video of me. I raised my right hand and the person on the screen did the same thing. My eyes were drawn to a shadowy figure in the corner of the room. I looked in that direction, but there was no one there. I let out a shriek as I looked back at the screen to see the person had moved closer and was now visible. It was a clown wearing red makeup, and I could see insects dripping from its empty eye socket. It raised its hand and waved at me as I risked a peek over my shoulder to see an empty room. I desperately tried to panic as the clown on the screen was now directly behind me. I could feel a cold breath on the back of my neck, and I wrinkled my nose as the stench of alcohol emanated from him. A fluttering noise above me made me glance up to see a pink balloon drifting down towards me. It had been twisted to look like a giraffe. It slowly drifted down until it was level with my face, before popping and spraying out a liquid that soaked me to the bone. I let out a sob as I realized I was covered in blood, which was dripping down into my shoes. I once again looked at the screen to see the clown's face was only inches away from my own. I closed my eyes and began praying as I felt his callous tongue begin to caress my cheek. I stood there trembling as his tongue entered my earlobe and began to burrow its way into my skull. I don't know how long I stood there, but it felt like hours. I finally opened one of my eyes and let out a sigh of relief as he was nowhere in sight. I searched the house for a telephone, but found nothing, and got worried as I couldn't find the girl I was meant to be babysitting. I found a picture of her and immediately recognized her as the girl who had crucified me in one of the videos. I was about to just take my chances at walking home when the building shook, knocking me from my feet. I raced down the stairs to find a small car the size of a suitcase sitting on the sitting room floor. I stood there transfixed as the door opened and the clown from earlier somehow crawled out. He towered over me, as he must have been about 10 feet tall. He grabbed a flower in his lapel and squeezed it to send a spray of liquid in my direction. I managed to dodge it, but a couple of drops landed on my arm and began burning through my flesh. Within seconds, I could see the bone of my arm from the hole it had created. The clown smirked and pulled a couple of balloons out and began theatrically blowing them up before beginning to twist them into random shapes. He held out a small balloon dog that let out a snarl that made every hair on the back of my neck stick up. I didn't even have time to react as the dog launched itself at me and began nipping at my legs. I stamped down, crushing it beneath my weight as the clown looked on, laughing. I fled to the kitchen while trying to keep as far away from the clown as possible. He just skipped along after me as I grabbed a knife and held it in front of me for protection. We both turned to look towards the front door as the doorbell went off. I reacted first and dodged around him and sprinted to the door. I flung it open and almost wept as the clown stood there carrying a sign saying "Surprise." I began backing away as he walked inside, juggling kittens. The poor things were meowing out of fear as he threw them into the air and devoured them one by one. He let out a belch and then shrugged his shoulders as if to apologize. He began advancing on me until my back struck a table and I knew there was no escape. His face was inches from my own when the clock struck midnight and a disappointed look crossed his face. He pulled a sign saying, "See you soon," before disappearing into a billow of smoke. I walked back to the screen and clicked backwards to see hundreds of folders with my name on it. I can feel myself drifting away as I write this and wonder if there's any way for me to escape this never-ending nightmare.